The pot roast was perfect that Sunday. I remember that. Rosemary and carrots, steam rising off the platter, snow tapping gentle against the kitchen window. Maddie was chattering about some science project, circuits, magnets, something I could actually help with, and Diane had set a nice table. 38 years of marriage, and I still felt grateful for moments like this. Warm kitchen, my grandson's laughter, the smell of home. Then Maddie looked up from his plate, fork halfway to his mouth, and asked the question that would split my life clean in two. Is Mom's sleepover friend eating with us tonight? The table went silent. My knife stopped mid-cut through the roast. Diane's face drained white, then flushed red, then settled into something hard I'd never seen before. I kept my voice gentle for the boy. What friend, buddy? But I already knew. Deep down, I already knew. Maddie didn't understand why the question was wrong. He just kept explaining. Innocent as Sunday morning. You know, Grandpa. The man who comes over when you go to VFW on Thursdays. He took a bite of pot roast, chewing while he talked. Mom makes special dinners those nights. He drives a fancy car, real shiny. My face burned. Not anger yet, just a slow, creeping heat that started at my collar and worked its way up. I glanced at Diane. She was staring at Maddie like she could will him quiet through sheer force. Maddie, that's enough. Her voice came out sharp. Go to your room. But I didn't finish. Now. I put my hand on the boy's shoulder. He's 10 years old. Lost his mama 3 years back, and I'll be damned if he's going to feel like he did something wrong for telling the truth. It's okay, buddy. Finish your milk first. Maddie looked between us, confused. Smart kid. He could feel the tension even if he couldn't name it. He drained his glass in 3 quick gulps, then headed for the stairs. His footsteps faded overhead, and then it was just me and Diane and a table full of food nobody wanted anymore. The pot roast had gone cold. I could see the grease starting to congeal around the edges. How long? I asked. She stood up fast, started clearing plates. Her hands were shaking so bad the silverware rattled against the china. Earl, I don't know what he's talking about. You know how kids make things up? How long, Diane? The plates clattered into the sink. She stood there with her back to me, gripping the counter edge. For a long moment, the only sound was the kitchen clock ticking and the snow still tapping at the window. I don't want to talk about this right now, she said. I sat there at the table my father built in 1954. Oak, solid. He'd taught me that good work lasts. I'd believed the same thing about marriage. She came to me that night after Maddie was asleep. I was still in the kitchen, hadn't moved much. Just sat there in the dark, listening to the furnace kick on and off. Diane turned on the light. Her eyes were red, whether from crying or rubbing them I couldn't tell. I need to tell you something, she said. Her voice was small, not the hard voice from dinner. I'm listening. She sat down across from me, wouldn't meet my eyes, just stared at her hands folded on the table. I've been seeing someone. It was a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. The words came out in a rush. It was one time, Earl. Just once. I was lonely, and you were always at the VFW or in that workshop, and She started crying then, real tears, or what looked like them. 38 years, and I wanted to believe her so bad it hurt. Who is he? Nobody. Just someone I met. It doesn't matter who. It's over. I swear to God, it's over. I thought about Maddie upstairs. Thought about how he'd already lost his mother. Thought about this house, this life, everything we'd built. We should see someone, I said. A counselor. Talk this through. Her head snapped up. You mean you'd be willing to try? 38 years, Diane. And Maddie needs... I couldn't finish. My throat was too tight. She reached across the table and took my hand. Hers was cold. I'll make this right, she whispered. I promise. I'll make this right. I wanted to believe her. Lord help me. I wanted to. The next morning she made coffee. Hadn't done that in months. Usually I was up first, had the pot going before she even woke. But there she was, in her robe, pouring me a cup, touching my shoulder as she passed. Morning, she said, soft, almost shy. Morning. Maddie came downstairs, still in his pajamas, looking worried. Kids always know when something's wrong, even if you don't say it. Are you guys okay? He asked. Diane smiled at him. We're fine, sweetie. Everything's fine. She looked at me when she said it, and I nodded. For Maddie's sake, I nodded. That afternoon, she suggested we watch a movie together Friday night. Family night, she called it. Just the 3 of us. I said that sounded nice. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was loading the dishwasher. She grabbed it fast, too fast, and smiled at the screen before typing something quick and deleting the notification. I was sitting at the table with the newspaper. She didn't know I'd seen. I didn't say anything. Just went back to reading about the high school basketball scores and tried to ignore the cold spot growing in my chest. 2 weeks went by. 14 days of Diane being Well, being the woman I'd married. She made coffee every morning, sat with me at the table while I drank it, asking about my plans for the day. She'd smile when I talked about fixing Clyde's porch light or helping Maddie with his homework. Small touches, her hand on my arm when she passed, a kiss on the cheek before bed. It felt real. Or I wanted it to feel real, which amounts to the same thing when you're desperate. Thursday came around, VFW night, I almost didn't go. Sat in my truck in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine running, heat blasting, the Thursday pattern, the sleepover friend, but I went. Couldn't hide forever, and those men had been my brothers for 40 years. The VFW hall sits on Main Street, between the hardware store and the old Rexall that's been a Dollar General for a decade now. I could see trucks I recognized in the parking lot. Tom Briggs's Cruiser, Bud Miller's old F-250. When I walked in, the conversation didn't exactly stop, but it shifted. Like someone had changed the channel mid-sentence. Tom was at the bar. He's our county sheriff, but Thursday nights he's just Tom, a union electrician who happened to take a different path. We'd worked jobs together back in the 80s, before his knees gave out and he went into law enforcement. He turned when I came in, and his handshake was firm, longer than usual. "Earl," he said, "good to see you." Just that. But the way he said it, the way he held my eyes, it meant something. It meant I know, and I'm still here. We played cards, drank beer, just one, I was driving. Nobody asked about Diane. Nobody mentioned anything. But Jerry Patterson kept looking at me sideways, and I caught Dutch Williams whispering something to Mike Chin at the dartboard. Small towns? Everybody knows everything eventually. Bud Miller sat down next to me during a break in the game. He runs the hardware store, has since his daddy passed in '94. Good man. Sold me the wire and fixtures when I rewired his garage last summer. "Earl, you need anything, you let me know," he said. Quiet. Just between us. "Appreciate it, Bud." "I mean it. Anything." I nodded. Couldn't trust my voice right then. Driving home, I took the long way. Past the old elementary school where Ruth went before we lost her. Past the church where I'd married Diane in 1986. The streets were quiet. Snow had stopped, but the cold was bitter, the kind that makes your breath fog and your fingers ache even with gloves on. I turned onto my street just before midnight, and there it was, a BMW. Dark blue or black, hard to tell under the streetlights. Parked at Clyde's curb, but close enough to my house that it gave me pause. Engine running, exhaust puffing white in the cold air. I slowed down. The car pulled out before I could get close, drove past me going the other direction. I caught the license plate in my headlights. Out of county, vanity plate, advocate, advocate. The words stuck with me as I pulled into my driveway. Diane was in bed already, the bedroom light off. I sat in my truck for a while, engine ticking as it cooled, and thought about shiny cars and Thursday nights and how Maddie had said fancy car, real shiny. The reconciliation continued. That's the only word for it, reconciliation. Like we were two countries signing a treaty, not a husband and wife trying to save a marriage. Friday night, we watched that movie. Some romantic comedy Diane picked. Maddie fell asleep halfway through, sprawled across the couch with his head on my shoulder. Diane held my hand. Her thumb traced circles on my palm, the way she used to do when we were young. Sunday, we went to church. Methodist, same pew we'd sat in for 30 years. Diane took my arm walking in. People smiled. The Hendersons waved. Pastor Mike mentioned supporting our neighbors through trials during his sermon, and I wondered if he knew, if everyone knew. But we looked normal. We looked like Earl and Diane Hutchins, married 38 years, raising their grandson together, still going strong. That week, she started asking about estate planning, just casual mentions over dinner or while we watched the news. We should make sure everything's in order, just in case. We're not getting any younger. Made sense. We were in our 60s. Maddie was only 10, responsible thing to do. "I've been talking to a lawyer friend," she said one night, "about setting things up properly. Trusts, beneficiaries, that kind of thing." "That's good," I said. "Smart," she smiled. "Just want to make sure Maddie's taken care of. And you, if something happens to me." I should have asked more questions. Should have wondered why she was suddenly so concerned with legal paperwork. But I was too busy being grateful she was still here, still trying. The coffee ritual continued. The hand-holding, the small kisses, she'd hum while doing dishes, something she hadn't done in years. Asked about my day, about the guys at VFW, about what Maddie was learning in school. It felt like healing. Like we'd hit a rough patch and we're coming out the other side. I was a fool. Wednesday evening, 2 weeks and 2 days after Maddie's question. I was making dinner, nothing fancy, just spaghetti and meatballs. Maddie was at the kitchen table. Homework spread out in front of him. "Grandpa, can I use the iPad? I need to look something up for my science project." "Sure, buddy. It's in the living room." He came back a minute later, device in hand, and settled in at the table. I heard him typing, clicking around. Then he went quiet. I glanced over. He was staring at the screen, his face scrunched up in that confused way kids get when they're reading something they don't quite understand. Grandpa? His voice was small. Why is Mom texting about you? The wooden spoon I was holding clattered against the pot, sauce splattered on the stovetop. What? There's messages about you. She's talking to someone named Kevin H. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step in the dark. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked over, trying to keep my breathing steady. Let me see, buddy. He handed me the iPad. The screen showed a message thread. Diane hadn't logged out. And right there, in a preview bubble at the top, Kevin H. I miss you. Thursday can't come soon enough. Timestamp, this morning, 10:47 a.m., while she was making my coffee and asking about my plans for the day. Maddie, go get ready for bed, okay? Brush your teeth. But it's only 7. Please, buddy. Just do it for me. He saw something in my face, grabbed his homework and headed upstairs without arguing. I stood alone in the kitchen holding that iPad and opened the full message thread. 9 months. The conversation went back 9 months. My hands started shaking so bad I almost dropped the device. I scrolled up, kept scrolling. The messages went back and back all the way to last April. Early flirtation. You made me laugh today. Can't stop thinking about you. Then it got warmer. I miss your smile. Thursday felt too short. By June, they were saying, I love you. My daughter had been dead 2 years by then. Maddie had just turned 9. Diane and I were taking him to counseling every week, trying to help him process losing his mama. And she was texting another man, I love you, while I drove Maddie to his appointments. The shower turned on upstairs. Diane, getting ready for bed, humming something. I could hear it through the ceiling. I kept reading. Kevin, Thursday nights are my favorite. Your husband still doing his VFW thing? Diane, like clockwork. 7 to midnight, every Thursday. He's so predictable. Kevin, works for us. I'm a further down from 3 weeks ago. Diane, he suspects something. Maddie said something at dinner. Kevin, what did you tell him? Diane, cried, admitted to one mistake. He bought it, suggested counseling. Kevin, LOL. The old man's too trusting. This'll be easier than the Morrison divorce. Morrison, I knew that name. Jack Morrison had a farm out past the county line. Beautiful property. 200 acres his granddaddy had cleared. Lost it all in a divorce maybe 3 years back. I remember hearing about it at VFW. Tom Briggs had been upset. Morrison was his cousin. I kept scrolling, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my temples. Kevin, Tuesday we finalized the property transfer. Once that deed's in her name alone, we can move forward. Diane, what about the confusion thing? Kevin, already documented. 3 missed doctor appointments. 2 bills you reported late. Pattern of forgetfulness. By Thursday, we establish another incident, maybe get a witness statement. Then we're golden. Diane, he'll fight it. Kevin, with what? He's 67, no evidence, and you've got documentation he's slipping. Judge will side with you. They always do. Diane, I almost feel bad. Kevin, don't. You've earned this. 38 years of marriage. You deserve that property, and my fee will be worth it when you're free. The date on that exchange, last Tuesday, 6 days ago, while she was making my coffee and touching my shoulder and promising to make this right. On the shower shut off upstairs, I took screenshots, every conversation, sent them to my email, deleted the sent message, cleared the recently deleted folder, set the iPad down, exactly where Maddie had left it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Diane appeared in this kitchen doorway, hair wrapped in a towel, wearing her bathrobe. She smiled when she saw me. Everything okay down here? I forced my voice steady. Just helping Maddie with homework. He's getting ready for bed now. Good. She walked over, kissed my cheek. Her skin was warm and damp from the shower. I'm heading up. Coming soon? I'll lock up first. Be there in a minute. She nodded and headed upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. I stood in the kitchen, in the house my father built in 1952, board by board, nail by nail, and felt everything I'd believed about my life crumble like rotted wood. The workshop is detached from the house. Used to be a garage before Dad converted it in the 70s. When I inherited the place after he passed, I kept it exactly how he'd left it. His tools still hanging on the pegboard, his workbench, scarred and stained but solid. The smell of sawdust and machine oil and old wood. I slipped out the back door, crossed the 20 feet of frozen yard, and let myself in. Flipped on the space heater, sat down at Dad's bench. A photo was tucked under the edge of the vise. Dad in 1952, standing in front of this house when it was just framed up. Young man, maybe 30, work clothes, proud smile. He'd built something to last. I pulled out a notebook from the drawer, started writing. 9 months, not one mistake. Kevin Halstead, Esquirons, divorce attorney. Tuesday, equal property transfer. Stop it. Confusion pattern, fake appointments, fake bills. Morrison divorce, same lawyer, same pattern. I checked my phone. Today was Wednesday. Tuesday was 6 days away. The workshop was cold despite the heater, my breath fogged in the air. But my mind felt sharp for the first time in 2 weeks, clear. Under my notes, I wrote one more line. Dad didn't raise a fool. I sat there until almost 3 in the morning. Didn't feel tired. Felt awake. Felt like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life and had finally opened my eyes. When I finally went inside, Diane was asleep, snoring softly, curled on her side. I stood in the doorway and looked at her. 38 years. The woman I'd married, the woman who'd stood by me when Ruth died, the woman who'd helped me raise Maddie. That woman was gone. Maybe she'd never existed at all. I grabbed my pillow and went to sleep on the couch. I called Tom Briggs first thing Friday morning. Caught him at the sheriff's office before his shift started. Tom, I need a lawyer, a good one. There was a pause. Then, Sarah Mendez. She's in Millfield, about 20 minutes from you, does elder law, estate stuff, doesn't mess around. There's another pause. Earl, you okay? I will be. Thanks, Tom. Call me if you need anything. I mean that. Sarah's office was above an insurance agency on Main Street in Millfield. Narrow stairs, carpet that had seen better days. But her door had her name in clean gold letters, Sarah Mendez, attorney at law. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 40s, sharp eyes, firm handshake. Mr. Hutchins, Tom Briggs spoke highly of you, said you did the electrical work in his house. 98, whole place, top to bottom. He said you never cut a corner. She gestured to a chair. Have a seat. Tell me what's going on. I showed her the screenshots, all of them. Watched her face as she scrolled through 9 months of my wife planning to steal everything I had. Jesus, she muttered. Finally looked up. Okay, first thing, I need to run a property search. What's your address? I told her. She typed it into her computer, clicked around for a minute, then her face changed. Mr. Hutchins, Earl, when did you last check your property records? I don't know. Years, maybe. House is paid off. Been in my name since Dad died in '02. It's not in your name anymore. The air went out of the room. What? She turned the screen toward me. There it was. County property records, my address, but the owner listed was Diane Marie Hutchins, sole owner. There's a quitclaim deed on file, dated August 12th of last year, signed by you, transferring the property to your wife's name only. She looked at me. Did you sign this? No, I never. My voice cracked. August? That's 6 months ago. Sarah pulled up the document. There was my signature. Except it wasn't. Close, but the loops were wrong. The slant was off. That's not my signature. I believe you, but proving it is another matter. She leaned back in her chair. The notary who witnessed this is Carla Jenkins. Ring a bell? I shook my head. She works for Halstead and Associates, Kevin Halstead's firm. Sarah's mouth was a tight line. Your wife's boyfriend is also handling the legal mechanics of stealing your house. That's bold. Can we stop it? The Tuesday transfer she mentioned? The transfer already happened. In August. What's happening Tuesday, I'd guess, is something else. Maybe she's planning to list it, sell it, or there's another legal step I'm not seeing yet. She pulled out a legal pad, started writing. We need to prove the signature was forged. That means handwriting analysis. Runs about $5,000 to $8,000. My stomach clenched. I've got savings for Maddie's college. There's something else you need to understand. Sarah's voice went gentle. You're a 67-year-old man. Your wife is claiming or will claim that you're experiencing cognitive decline. Courts tend to be sympathetic to wives in these situations, especially if she's documented a pattern. She has. Fake doctor appointments, bills she reported late even though my autopay handled them. Smart, methodical. Sarah drummed her fingers on the desk. Earl, I'm going to be straight with you. This is going to be expensive. Probably $30,000 or more before we're done. It's going to be ugly. And even if we prove everything, there's no guarantee a judge won't still favor her. The system has biases. I thought about the house, about Dad hammering every nail, about Maddie's drawings on the workshop wall, about Ruth's childhood bedroom upstairs, the one we'd kept exactly the way she'd left it. How much to start? Retainer is $15,000. That gets us through initial investigation and filing. If you want me to hire a forensic accountant to look into Kevin Halstead's other cases, that's another $5,000. I pulled out my checkbook, the one I'd been using since 1985, wrote the check with steady hands, $20,000, most of what I had left after Ruth's funeral and Maddie's expenses. Find me everything on Kevin Halstead, I said, handing it over. Everything. Sarah took the check, looked at me with something like respect. I'll start today. Earl, even if we win, this is going to hurt. 38 years is going to end ugly. It already ended, I said. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. I went to the grocery store on the way home. Needed to think, needed to move. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. That sound that gets into your bones. Picked up bread, milk, eggs. Normal things. I was in the produce section when I heard them. Two women in the next aisle over. Didn't see them, just heard their voices. Poor Earl Hutchins. That was Gladys Patterson. I'd know that voice anywhere. Wife's got a boyfriend, and he's so senile he didn't notice for months. I heard he wanders, forgets where he is. The other voice. Gladys's friend, maybe. Sad at his age. My mother was the same way before we put her in a home. My face burned. My ears burned. Every part of me wanted to march around that aisle and tell them exactly how wrong they were, but I didn't, because that's what Diane wanted. A scene. Evidence of instability. I paid for my groceries, kept my head down, walked to my truck like a man who had nothing to prove. Bud Miller caught me in the parking lot. He'd seen me through his hardware store window, came jogging over. "Earl, hold up." I stopped. Couldn't trust my voice yet. "Ignore the hens," Bud said. "I know you. You wired my garage last summer. Best work I've ever seen. Sharp as a tack." "Thanks, Bud. I mean it." He looked at me hard. "You need anything. Testimony, someone to vouch for you. Anything. You let me know." I nodded. Still couldn't speak. He clapped my shoulder and headed back to his store. I sat in my truck and realized something. The lies were spreading. Diane's fake appointments, her manufactured evidence, it was feeding the gossip mill, creating a public narrative of my incompetence before any legal fight even started. She was thorough. I'd give her that. My phone rang. Sarah Mendez. "Earl, I found something. Can you come back to the office?" On my way. 20 minutes later, I was back in her office. She had papers spread across her desk. I did a preliminary search on Kevin Halstead's case history, divorce cases specifically, and she pointed to 3 folders. Morrison, 2019, Chen, 2020, Williams, 2001. Jack Morrison lost his farm. He did, and in every case, the pattern is identical to yours. Elderly husband, property transferred into wife's name before divorce filing, claims of cognitive decline, rapid settlement, and Kevin Halstead walking away with 40% of the settlement as his legal fee. She did the math on her calculator. Morrison, $340,000. Chen, $180,000. Williams, $290,000. That's $810,000 in fees over 3 years. He's done this before. He's perfected it. This isn't romance, Earl. This is a business model. Sarah leaned forward. If we can prove the pattern, prove he initiated contact with these wives, coach them through the same playbook, this becomes more than your divorce. This becomes fraud, elder exploitation, criminal charges. Hope flickered in my chest. Small, fragile, but there. "Oh, what do we do?" "I'm going to hire a forensic accountant. Robert Chen, it's his uncle who lost the dry cleaning business. He's got a personal stake in this." She started typing. "We're going to need statements from Morrison, Chen, and Williams. Documentation. Timeline. Everything. How much time do we have?" "Until Tuesday? 4 days." "But Earl, even if we can't stop whatever's happening Tuesday, we can build a case that destroys Kevin Halstead's career and gets your property back." "Do it." Sarah nodded, started making calls. I sat there and thought about patterns, about predators who found a system that worked and kept using it. Kevin Halstead had made one mistake. He'd assumed I was like the others, too old, too confused, too trusting to fight back. He didn't know about the workshop, about the tools, about what my father had taught me. Measure twice. Cut once. I'd been measuring. Now it was time to cut. Thursday night came around again. VFW night. I told Diane I was going, same as always. Watched her face light up just a little when I said it, that small smile she tried to hide. I drove to the VFW, parked in the lot, sat there for 20 minutes, watching the guys go in. Tom waved from the door, gestured for me to come inside. I waved back, started the engine, drove home, parked down the street where Diane couldn't see the truck from the house. Walked through the Hendersons' backyard, crossed into mine from the side, let myself into the workshop. If Kevin was coming tonight, I wanted to know, wanted to see with my own eyes. The workshop was cold. I turned on the space heater, but kept the lights off. Sat at Dad's workbench in the dark, just the orange glow from the heater and the moonlight through the window. It was 7:30. If the pattern held, Kevin would show up around 7:15. Maybe I'd missed him already. But at 7:45, headlights swept across the workshop wall. I moved to the small window, staying in shadow. The BMW pulled into my driveway, vanity plate, Advo T8. Kevin Halstead stepped out. Even from 50 feet away, I could see he was the kind of man who spent money on looking good. Nice coat, dress shoes on a Thursday night, hairstyle just so. He walked to my front door like he owned the place. Diane opened it before he could knock. I saw her silhouette in the doorway, saw her reach for him. The door closed. I sat back down at the workbench. My father's hammer was hanging on the pegboard. I took it down, held it. The handle was smooth from 60 years of use. Dad's hands had worn those grooves. My hands fit them now. What was I doing? Sitting in a freezing workshop while another man walked into my house, kissed my wife, probably sat at my table, eating food bought with my money. I could storm in there, make a scene, throw him out. But that's what they wanted, wasn't it? Evidence of instability. An outburst. Witnesses to my confusion and anger issues. So I sat, and I waited, and I thought about just letting it all go. Sign the papers, take my tools, find an apartment somewhere. Let Diane have the house, let Kevin have his fee, let them both have what they wanted. See Maddie on weekends, start over at 67. My daughter's face flashed in my mind. Ruth, at 5 years old, running through this yard, playing in the workshop while I fixed a toaster or rewired a lamp. She'd hand me tools, getting the names wrong. Here's the spinny thing, Daddy. And I'd laugh and show her the right way. She was gone, buried up at Pleasant Grove Cemetery. And now they wanted to take her house too. The place where she'd grown up, where her son was growing up. I set the hammer down, looked at my hands, calloused, scarred. Competent hands that had wired 1,000 houses, fixed 10,000 things. These weren't the hands of a confused old man. The house lights were on. I could see shapes moving past the kitchen window. Hear voices, faint through the wall the workshop shared with the house, then clear. They'd moved to the kitchen. The wall was thin there, just siding and insulation between the workshop and my own damn kitchen. Kevin's voice carried, young, confident. Tuesday the deed's final. Once the waiting period's done, it's ironclad. Thursday we move to phase 2, which is what? Diane's voice. I'd know it anywhere. We establish one more incident. Confusion, wandering, whatever. Get a witness. Then Friday, I file the paperwork. By the following week, he's served. He'll fight it. Kevin laughed. Actually laughed. With what? Sarah Mendez is decent, but she's not magic. Your husband's 67, you've got 6 months of documentation, and I've got 3 previous cases with the same pattern. Judge Hendricks always sides with the wife in these situations. Always. There was a pause. The sound of a refrigerator opening, a beer can cracking. You sure he doesn't suspect? Diane asked. Baby, the man still goes to VFW every Thursday like clockwork. He bought your crying act completely. Hell, you told me he suggested couples counseling. Another laugh. He's easier than Morrison, and that farmer fought for 6 months. Morrison lost his farm. Morrison lost everything. And we'll do the same here. That property's worth at least $340. My fee's 40% of settlement. You walk away with $200,000 in freedom. Everybody wins. Except Earl. Earl had 38 years of you. Now it's your turn. I heard the sound of kissing. Of them moving closer together. In my kitchen. At my table, probably. The table my father built. My hands clenched into fists. Every muscle in my body wanted to crash through that wall, drag Kevin Halstead out by his collar, show him what happens when you come into another man's house. But I didn't move. Because they'd just confessed everything. The timeline, the pattern, the judge they were counting on. If only I'd had a way to record it. I should go, Kevin said. Can't stay too late. Old man gets back around midnight, right? Like clockwork. Jesus, he really is predictable. And more sounds. The front door opening. Kevin's voice, distant now. See you Tuesday. Courthouse at 2. I'll be there. The door closed. The BMW started up, drove away. The kitchen light stayed on for a while. I heard Diane moving around, humming something. Dishes in the sink. The TV turning on in the living room. Then the light went off. She was heading to bed. I sat in the dark workshop, my father's hammer in my hands, and felt something crack open inside my chest. Not anger anymore, not even hurt, just cold, clear certainty. They'd made a mistake. They'd gotten comfortable. Arrogant. And I had 4 days. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my legs to go numb. Long enough for the space heater to cycle off and the cold to seep into my bones. There was a sound outside. Footsteps on gravel. I tensed. Kevin coming back? A knock on the workshop door. Soft. Hesitant. Earl? Clyde's voice. I stood up, joints creaking, and opened the door. My neighbor stood there in his coat and boots, breath fogging in the freezing air. He was holding something, a manila folder. I saw his car, Clyde said. His voice shook. BMW. I've been seeing it for months. Clyde, it's almost 3 in the morning. I know, and I'm sorry, Earl. I should have told you months ago. Betty would have told you. She'd have marched right over the first time she saw it. His eyes were wet. I'm a coward. But I can't do it anymore. I got something to show you. He held out the folder. I took it, opened it. Photos. Dozens of them. The BMW in my driveway. Time-stamped. Dated. Every Thursday for the last 8 months. 47 photos total. Clyde had written the number on the inside cover. I started taking them after Betty died, he said. Didn't know what else to do with myself. Just watched, documented, figured maybe someday it'd matter. I looked at my neighbor, 71 years old, arthritic hands that probably hurt like hell in this cold, standing in my driveway at 3 a.m. because he couldn't live with silence anymore. It matters, Clyde. It matters a hell of a lot. He nodded, started to cry. Betty always said evil thrives when good men do nothing. I did nothing for 8 months. I'm sorry, Earl. I'm so damn sorry. I put my hand on his shoulder. You're here now. That's what counts. We stood there in the freezing night, two old men who'd finally found their spine. You know Tom Briggs? I asked. Sheriff Tom? Sure. We're going to need him. And anyone else you know who Kevin Halstead screwed over. I looked at the photos again. Documentation. Evidence. Truth in black and white. You said Morrison lost his farm? Jack Morrison. Kevin handled his wife's divorce. Jack lost 200 acres his granddaddy cleared. Who else? The Chin family. Dry cleaning business. And Williams, had rental properties. 3 cases. Same pattern. Same lawyer. Clyde, I need you to do something for me. Carefully. Quietly. Anything. Find out everything you can about those cases. Names, dates, what they lost. I need it by Monday. Monday's only 4 days? I know. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Then nodded. I'll get you names by Sunday night. Thank you. He turned to go, then stopped. Earl, Betty kept a bottle of bourbon. Anniversary present I never got to give her. Been sitting in my cabinet for 18 months. He paused. When this is over, we should open it. When this is over, I agreed. He walked back across the yard to his house. I watched him go, then looked at the folder in my hands. 47 pieces of evidence. Tuesday was in 4 days. I went into the workshop and started planning. Friday morning, Sarah called before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. Earl, the forensic accountant found something. Can you come in this afternoon? I'll be there at 2. Diane was still asleep. I left a note on the counter, running errands, back this afternoon, and drove to Millfield. Sarah's office felt different this time, more alive. She had papers spread across every surface, sticky notes on the wall, a whiteboard covered in names and dates. Robert Chen worked through the night, she said, gesturing to a man in his early 50s sitting at the conference table. He had the tired eyes of someone who'd been staring at spreadsheets for too long, but there was energy in his posture, purpose. Mr. Hutchins, he stood, shook my hand. His grip was firm. My uncle lost his business to Kevin Halstead in 2010. I've been waiting 3 years for a chance like this. Sarah pushed a folder across the table to me. 3 cases. Morrison, Chin, Williams. The pattern is unmistakable. I opened it. She'd created a chart, 3 columns, 1 for each case. Morrison, 2019. Farm transferred to wife 6 months before divorce filing. Cognitive decline, documented by 3 missed medical appointments. Wife's attorney, Kevin Halstead. Settlement, $340,000. Kevin's fee, 40%. Farm sold to developers within a year. Chen, 2020. Dry cleaning business transferred to wife 8 months before filing. Documented confusion about finances. Wife's attorney, Kevin Halstead. Settlement, under $80,000. Kevin's fee, 40%. Business closed within 6 months. Williams, 2021. Rental properties transferred to wife 7 months before filing. Claims of inability to manage properties. Wife's attorney, Kevin Halstead. Settlement, $290,000. Kevin's fee, 40%. Properties sold to investment company. Jesus, I whispered. It gets better, Robert said. He pulled out another sheet. In all 3 cases, Kevin Halstead made first contact with the wives. Morrison's wife met him at a charity event. Chen's wife consulted him about estate planning. Williams's wife was referred by Kevin's paralegal, Carla Jenkins. And the same notary who signed my forged deed. The same. Sarah leaned forward. Earl, this isn't a divorce attorney having affairs. This is a systematic fraud operation targeting elderly men. He identifies vulnerable marriages, seduces the wives, coaches them through property transfers, manufactures evidence of cognitive decline, then takes 40% of settlements that bankrupt the husbands. How can we prove it? We can prove the pattern. We can prove he represented all 4 wives. We can prove the property transfers happened before any divorce filings. With the texts you have, where he references easier than Morrison, we can establish consciousness of a scheme. What about the other men? Morrison, Chen, Williams. Robert's reaching out to them. If they're willing to testify, willing to show their documentation. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who'd found blood in the water. Kevin Halstead is looking at criminal charges. Fraud, elder exploitation, conspiracy, and disbarment. I sat back in my chair. What do we need to do? We need to move fast. Whatever's happening Tuesday, and I still think it's him listing your property for sale, we need to stop it before it happens. She pulled out a legal pad. I'm proposing something unconventional. A settlement meeting. Monday afternoon. Settlement? We invite Kevin and Diane. Tell them you're ready to negotiate terms. They'll come in confident, expecting you to cave. She tapped her pen on the pad, but we also invite Tom Briggs, Robert, and we subpoena Carla Jenkins, the notary. Ambush them. Confront them with evidence they don't know we have. Force Kevin's hand before Tuesday. Get everything on record. She looked at me hard. It's aggressive. It's risky. If we show our cards too early and they lawyer up better than we expect, it could backfire. But we're out of time. I thought about my father's workshop rule. Measure twice, cut once. How much measuring have we done? Enough, Sarah said. We've got the texts, the photos, the pattern. 3 victims willing to testify. A notary we can pressure into confession. Then let's cut. I was home by 4. Diane was in the kitchen making dinner. Something smelled good. Pot roast again, like she was trying to recreate that Sunday before everything broke. Hey, she said, smiling. Where'd you run off to? Had some errands, needed to think. Everything okay? I looked at her, really looked at her. 38 years. I could see the girl I'd married in 1986, still there, in the shape of her face, the way she tilted her head. But that girl was gone. Maybe she'd never existed. Yeah, I said, everything's fine. She kissed my cheek. Dinner in 20 minutes. Maddie has a friend coming over. Is that okay? That's fine. I went to the workshop. Needed space. Needed to think. Clyde knocked on the door around 6. He had a notebook, pages covered in his careful handwriting. Got what you asked for, he said. We sat at the workbench. He'd found names, phone numbers, addresses. Jack Morrison was still in the county, living in a rented farmhouse. Robert Chen, the accountant's uncle, ran a small tax prep business now. Marcus Williams had moved 2 counties over, but Clyde had tracked down a number. How'd you get all this? Small towns, Clyde shrugged. Asked around, carefully. People remember those cases. Everyone felt bad for those men. Thank you. There's something else. Clyde flipped to the back of the notebook. Carla Jenkins, the notary. Her sister goes to our church. I heard from someone who heard from someone that Carla's been real upset lately. Crying at work. Talking about quitting. Guilty conscience. Maybe. Or maybe she knows what she did was wrong and she's scared. I thought about that. A young woman, probably in her 20s, working for a man like Kevin Halstead, pressured into breaking the law, living with that weight. If we can get her to flip, she could testify he made her backdate the deed, coerced her. Clyde nodded. Might be she's looking for a way out. Sarah's subpoenaing her for Monday. That soon? We're out of time. Whatever Kevin's got planned for Tuesday, we need to stop it. Clyde was quiet for a moment. Then, Earl, what if this doesn't work? What if the judge sides with Diane anyway? What if... Then I lose the house. But at least I'll know I fought. I looked at the walls of the workshop, my father's tools, Ruth's drawing still taped up in the corner. I can't control what judges do, but I can control whether I go down quiet or loud. Betty would have liked you, Clyde said softly. Would have said you got spine. Betty sounds like she was quite a woman. She was. He stood up, groaning as his knees cracked. I should get back. You need anything, you holler. After he left, I sat alone in the workshop. Made a list of everything we had. 9 months of text messages. 47 photos from Clyde, forged quitclaim deed, 3 previous victims, with identical patterns. Kevin's own words. Easier than Morrison. A notary who might break under pressure. A forensic accountant with a personal grudge. A sheriff who remembered what happened to his cousin. It was a hell of a case. But we needed one more thing. We needed Kevin to walk into that room on Monday, completely confident, completely unsuspecting, which meant I had to keep playing the confused old man for 3 more days. Saturday morning, Diane suggested we go out for breakfast. Just the 2 of us. Maddie can sleep in. We went to the diner on Main Street, the one with the red vinyl booths and coffee that's always a little too strong. We used to come here every Saturday when Ruth was alive. Family tradition. Diane ordered pancakes. Kept touching my hand across the table, talking about maybe taking a trip once everything settled down. Maybe Florida, somewhere warm. I smiled, nodded, played the part. When the check came, I paid, left a good tip. Walking to the truck, Diane took my arm. To anyone watching, we looked like what we were supposed to be. Earl and Diane Hutchins. Married 38 years, still together, still trying. But I felt her phone buzz in her purse. Saw her glance at it, saw that small smile she couldn't quite hide. Everything okay? I asked. Perfect, she said. Everything's perfect. Monday was 2 days away. I could wait 2 more days. Sunday, after church, my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hutchins, this is Angela Reyes. I'm the counselor at Maddie's school. My stomach dropped. Is Maddie okay? He's fine, physically. But I need to discuss some concerns. Do you have a few minutes? I was in the truck, Diane and Maddie still inside talking to Pastor Mike. I'm listening. Maddie's been telling some stories that don't quite add up. He says, you forget to pick him up from school, but our records show you've never been late. He says you forget to make dinner, but then he describes the meals in detail. What you cooked, how it tasted. He says you get confused about dates, but his homework is always signed correctly, always on time. I gripped the steering wheel. Someone's coaching him. There was a pause. That was my assessment. And when I asked him about it gently, he became very distressed, started crying, said his mom told him he had to say these things because Grandpa was getting sick and needed help. Jesus. Mr. Hutchins, I've documented everything, the inconsistencies, Maddie's emotional state, the fact that his academic performance is excellent, and he clearly has a stable home environment. Her voice was firm. If this goes to court, if there's any question about custody or your fitness as a guardian, I will testify. That child loves you, and he's being manipulated. My throat was too tight to speak for a moment. Thank you, I finally managed. That means, thank you. Maddie's a good kid. Whatever's happening in your family, he doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle. She paused. Be well, Mr. Hutchins. And if you need that documentation, call my office Monday morning. She hung up. I sat in the truck, watching Diane laugh with Pastor Mike through the church window, using our grandson, coaching a 10-year-old to lie about the man who'd raised him for 3 years. That was the line. The place where hurt turned to something colder, harder. She could steal the house. Could steal 38 years. Could break every promise she'd ever made. But she wasn't taking Maddie. Sunday evening, Sarah called. Everything's set for tomorrow, 2 p.m., my office. I've confirmed Kevin and Diane will be there. Sent the meeting request through Kevin's office. Made it sound like standard settlement discussion. They think I'm folding. They think you're going to sign over the retirement accounts and walk away quietly. Kevin's probably already calculating his fee. I heard papers rustling. Tom Briggs will be there, Robert Chen, and we got Carla Jenkins served with a subpoena this afternoon. How'd she take it? According to the process server, she burst into tears. Sarah's voice softened. Earl, I think she wants out. I think she's been carrying this guilt and waiting for someone to give her a reason to come clean. Will she testify? We'll know tomorrow. I've got her arriving at 1:45 before Kevin gets there. Give her a chance to talk without him in the room. More rustling. Morrison, Chen, and Williams are on standby. If we need their testimony, Robert can get them on video call within an hour. You've thought of everything. I've been practicing law for 20 years. Never had a case quite like this. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Elder exploitation is common, but this systematic, this calculated? Kevin Halstead is a predator, and tomorrow we're putting him in a cage. After I hung up, I went to the workshop. Needed to think, needed to prepare. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., everything would come out. The texts, the photos, the pattern, 3 other victims. A notary's confession, if we were lucky. But there was a part of me that still couldn't quite believe it would work. A part that had spent 67 years believing if you did right by people, they'd do right by you. Believing the system was fair. Believing marriage vows meant something. I pulled out the photo of my father, young man, standing in front of this house when it was just framed. 1952, he'd been so proud. I'm trying, Dad, I said to the empty workshop. I'm trying to keep it. The door opened. Matty stood there in his pajamas, shivering in the cold. Grandpa, you okay? I wiped my eyes quick. I'm fine, buddy. What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep. And he came in, climbed up on the stool next to the workbench. Can we work on circuits? It was almost 9 o'clock, school night, but I looked at his face, so much like Ruth's, and couldn't say no. Sure, let's wire up that 3-way switch I've been meaning to show you. We worked in comfortable silence, my hands guiding his smaller ones, showing him how to strip the wire, how to connect it to the terminals, how to test the circuit. Grandpa, he said after a while, I'm sorry about what I said, about you forgetting things. My hands stilled. What do you mean, buddy? Mom said I had to say it. Said you were getting sick, and people needed to know so they could help you, but you're not sick. You never forget anything. His voice got small. I didn't want to lie. I set down the wire strippers, turned to face him. Matty, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. You understand? Nothing that's happening is your fault. Are you and Mom getting divorced? No point lying to him. He was smart. He'd already figured out more than we'd wanted him to know. Probably, yeah. Will I still live with you? I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you do. This house is yours, buddy. Your mom lived here. Your great-grandpa built it. It's yours. He nodded. Didn't cry, but his eyes were wet. Can we finish the circuit? Yeah, we can finish it. And we worked until 10:30, got the three-way switch wired up perfect. When Matty flipped the switch and the light came on, his whole face lit up. I did it. You did it. And I walked him back to the house, tucked him in, something I hadn't done in months. He usually said he was too old for it, but tonight he let me. Grandpa, whatever happens, you're not sick, okay? I know you're not. Okay, buddy, get some sleep. I closed his door and stood in the hallway. Diane was in our bedroom, door shut, probably texting Kevin about tomorrow's meeting, probably celebrating her upcoming victory. She had no idea what was waiting for her. Monday morning came up cold and clear. I made coffee, same as always. Diane came down around 7, already dressed nice, nicer than usual. You're up early, I said. Got errands. Might be out this afternoon. She poured herself coffee. You have plans? Got a meeting at 2, that lawyer, remember, settlement discussion. She smiled. Tried to hide it, but couldn't quite manage. That's good, Earl. That's really good. I think talking things through is the right call. Me too. She kissed my cheek on her way out. Left the house around 8. I watched through the window as she drove away. Then I got dressed. Put on my good shirt, the blue one Ruth had bought me for Christmas 5 years ago. Polished my shoes. Looked at myself in the mirror. 67 years old. Calloused hands, gray hair. Face that showed every one of those years. But the eyes looking back at me weren't confused. Weren't weak. They were clear, sharp, ready. I grabbed my truck keys and headed for Millfield. Sarah's office at 1:30. Give us time to prepare. Time to make sure every piece was in place. At 1:45, Carla Jenkins arrived. I saw her through Sarah's window. Young woman, maybe 28, eyes red from crying. She had a lawyer with her. That was good. Meant she was taking this seriously. At 1:50, Tom Briggs showed up in uniform. He nodded at me. All business, all sheriff. At 1:55, Robert Chen arrived with his laptop and 3 thick folders. At 2:00, Sarah looked at me. You ready? I thought about my father building this house, about Ruth growing up in it, about Maddie learning circuits in the workshop. I'm ready. At 2:03, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Expensive shoes on old carpet. Sarah opened her office door. Kevin Halstead walked in first. Expensive suit, Rolex catching the light, that confident smile of a man who thought he'd already won. Diane followed. She saw me sitting there and smiled too. Sympathetic, like she felt sorry for me. Then Kevin saw Tom Briggs in his sheriff's uniform. His smile faltered. What's this about? He asked. Sarah closed the door. Have a seat, counselor, she said. We need to talk. Kevin recovered quick. That confident smile came back, slick as oil. Sheriff Briggs, didn't expect to see you at a settlement meeting. He set his briefcase on the conference table, popped it open. Though I suppose it's good to have law enforcement witness these things. Make sure everything's above board. Tom didn't smile back, just nodded. That's exactly why I'm here, son. Diane sat down next to Kevin, wouldn't look at me. Her hands were shaking, though. She knew something was wrong. Kevin pulled out papers, slid them across to Sarah. Standard settlement agreement. Mr. Hutchins keeps the retirement accounts. Mrs. Hutchins retains the property. Clean split. We can have this signed today and move forward with divorce proceedings next week. And before we discuss settlement, Sarah said, I'd like to introduce some other parties. She gestured to Robert Chen. This is Robert Chen, forensic accountant. Kevin's jaw tightened just a fraction. I don't see why we need... And this is Carla Jenkins. Sarah opened the door. The young woman who'd been waiting in the outer office came in, her lawyer beside her. I believe you know Ms. Jenkins. She's your paralegal. Kevin's face went white. Carla, what are you doing here? She's here to tell the truth, Sarah said. I don't know what kind of circus you're running, Ms. Mendez, but my client and I are leaving. Kevin stood up, grabbed his briefcase. Sit down, Kevin. Tom's voice was quiet, but it had that quality, that sheriff quality, that made it a command, not a suggestion. Kevin stayed standing. You have no authority here. This is a private civil matter. Fraud is criminal. So is elder exploitation. So is conspiracy to commit forgery. Tom pulled out a notebook. Now you can sit down and listen, or you can leave, and I'll have a warrant sworn out within the hour. Your choice. Kevin sat down. Sarah nodded to Robert. Mr. Chen, would you share what you found? Robert opened his laptop, pulled up a spreadsheet on the screen, turned it so everyone could see. 3 cases. Morrison 2019, Chen, my uncle, 2020, Williams 2021, and he pointed to each row. In every case, an elderly husband. Property transferred to the wife's name months before divorce filing, claims of cognitive decline, and in every case, Kevin Halstead is the wife's attorney walking away with 40% of the settlement, and he did the math on screen. $810,000 in fees over 3 years. That's not illegal, Kevin said. His voice had lost some of that smoothness. Those were legitimate cases, legitimate fees. Legitimate? Robert's voice shook with anger. My uncle lost his business, his life's work, because you seduced his wife and coached her through stealing it. That's defamation. It's pattern. Sarah laid out 3 folders. Morrison, Chen, Williams, and now Hutchins. Same playbook every time. You make contact with the wife, build a relationship, convince her to transfer property, manufacture evidence of the husband's incompetence, file for divorce, take your cut. And she opened another folder, my text messages, printed out, highlighted. The old man's too trusting. This'll be easier than the Morrison divorce. Sarah read it slowly. Those are your words, Mr. Halstead. From your text conversation with Mrs. Hutchins. Diane made a small sound. Kevin shot her a look that could have stripped paint. How did you get those texts? Kevin's lawyer voice was back, but there was panic underneath. Those are private communications. Found on a shared device, Sarah said. Perfectly legal discovery. Tom leaned forward. Kevin, you remember Jack Morrison? That was my cousin. Lost 200 acres his granddaddy cleared in the 1930s. I watched him break when that farm got sold to developers. I'm sorry for your cousin's loss, but you handled his wife's divorce, took 40%. That sound familiar? Kevin's Rolex caught the light as he reached for his briefcase again. This is harassment. This is Ms. Jenkins, Sarah said gently. Would you like to tell us about the quitclaim deed? Carla was crying already. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder, nodded. He made me do it, she whispered. The deed. Hutchins' signature. Kevin brought it to me in August, said Mr. Hutchins had signed it, but forgot to get it notarized. Asked if I could backdate the notarization to make it official. And did you? Sarah asked. Yes. Carla's voice broke. I needed the job. I'm still paying off student loans. Kevin said it was just a technicality, that Mr. Hutchins had really signed it. But I looked at other documents with Mr. Hutchins' signature, and they didn't match. I knew, and I did it anyway. She looked at me for the first time. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hutchins. I was scared of losing my job, and I did something terrible. Carla, don't say another word, Kevin snapped. You need your own attorney. She has one, the lawyer next to Carla said. And in exchange for her testimony, we're negotiating immunity from prosecution. Kevin's face was red now. You can't prove anything. This is all circumstantial. We have the texts, Sarah said. We have the forged deed. We have Ms. Jenkins' testimony about coercion. We have 3 previous victims willing to testify to the pattern. And we have this. She pulled out Clyde's folder, spread the photos across the table. 47 images of Kevin's BMW in my driveway. Every Thursday for 8 months. Time-stamped, dated. My neighbor's been documenting your visits since last April, I said. It was the first time I'd spoken. 47 Thursdays, while I was at VFW, while you were in my house. Diane stood up fast. Her chair scraped against the floor. I need to leave. Sit down, Diane. My voice was quiet. But she heard something in it that made her freeze. Earl, I can explain. Maddie deserves the truth. 4 words, that's all it took. Her face crumpled. You used our grandson? I said. Coached him to lie about me. Had him tell his teachers I was confused, forgetful. He's 10 years old, Diane. He lost his mother. And you made him a weapon. I didn't mean... Miss, Ray is at the school, documented everything, Sarah said. The coached statements, Maddie's distress. She'll testify if needed. Tom stood up. Kevin Halstead, I'm opening an official investigation into elder exploitation, fraud, conspiracy to commit forgery, and theft by deception. You'll be hearing from the prosecutor's office within 48 hours. This is entrapment, Kevin's voice finally cracked. This whole meeting was a setup. No, son. Tom's voice was almost gentle. This is documentation, something you taught these folks real well, how to build a case, how to gather evidence, how to prove a pattern. He closed his notebook. Difference is they did it legally. Diane turned to me. Her eyes were desperate. You'll never see Maddie again. I'll make sure. I'll tell the judge. You'll tell the judge what? I kept my voice level. That you coached a 10-year-old to lie? That you conspired to steal his inheritance? That you forged documents and committed fraud? I shook my head. The judge will see those texts, Diane. The ones where you and Kevin joke about how trusting I am, how easy this is, how much money you'll make. Her mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. Kevin grabbed his briefcase, stood up. My client and I are leaving. Any further communication goes through. Your client is going to need a new attorney, Sarah said. Conflict of interest. You can't represent someone you conspired with to commit fraud. And Tom stepped in front of the door, not blocking it exactly, just standing there. Don't leave the county, Kevin. You'll be served soon enough. Kevin pushed past him. Diane followed, stumbling. I watched them go, heard Kevin's expensive shoes hammering down the stairs, heard Diane crying. The door closed. The room was quiet except for Carla still crying softly. Sarah put her hand on my shoulder. You did it, Earl, I exhaled. Felt like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. What happens now? Now? Tom sat back down. Criminal investigation. Kevin's probably going to be disbarred. Diane's going to need a real attorney. And you're going to get your house back. And Maddie? With that school documentation? With evidence she coached him to lie? Tom shook his head. Judge isn't going to give her unsupervised custody. Not for a long while. Robert Chin closed his laptop. My uncle wants to thank you, Morrison and Williams too. You might have just given them grounds to reopen their cases. I looked at all of them. Sarah, who'd worked the weekend building this case. Robert, who'd dug through files all night for his uncle's sake. Tom, who'd put on his uniform and stood up for family. Carla, who'd found the courage to tell the truth even though it cost her a job. Thank you, I said. All of you. We're not done yet, Sarah said. But the hard part's over. Rest is just paperwork. I stood up. My legs felt shaky. Tom steadied me. You all right? Yeah, I nodded. Yeah, I'm all right. And for the first time in weeks, it was true. April came in soft. The kind of spring that makes you forget how brutal winter was. I stood on the courthouse steps with Sarah, holding a folder of papers. Final divorce decree. Property deed back into my name. Retirement account split 50-50, which was fair, actually. 38 years, she'd earned half of that. Kevin's disbarment hearing is scheduled for May 15th, Sarah said. Criminal trial won't start until fall, but the prosecutor's confident. With Carla's testimony and the pattern evidence, he's looking at real prison time. And Diane? Moved to Columbus with her sister. She'll have supervised visitation with Maddie until the court evaluates her fitness. Given that she coached him to lie, Sarah shrugged. Could be a year or more before she gets unsupervised time. I looked out at the spring morning. Tulips were blooming in the courthouse flower beds. My father had planted tulips every year, said they reminded him that winter always ended. Morrison, Chin, and Williams are filing civil suits, Sarah continued, using our case as precedent. They might actually get some of their money back. Good. Oh, and I'm not charging you for the final work. She held up a hand when I started to protest. Watching Kevin Halstead's face when we laid out that evidence, that was payment enough. I've been practicing law for 20 years. That was the most satisfying 2 hours of my career. I shook her hand. Thank you, Sarah, for everything. Thank you for fighting back. Most men in your position would have just signed the papers and walked away. She smiled. Your father would be proud. The town was different now, or maybe I was different. Bud saw me at the hardware store on Saturday, called out loud enough for everyone to hear. Earl, you still available for electrical work? Got a buddy needs his garage rewired. And at church on Sunday, Pastor Mike mentioned the courage to stand for truth in his sermon. Looked right at me when he said it. The grocery store was the real test. I was in produce when I heard them, Gladys Patterson and her friend. Same aisle, where they'd gossiped about me 2 months ago. I braced myself. Earl Hutchins. Gladys came around the corner, stopped her cart in front of mine. I owe you an apology. I said some things, repeated some lies. I'm sorry. It's all right, Gladys. It's not. But I hope you'll forgive an old fool anyway. She patted my arm. What that woman did to you, what that lawyer did, it's criminal. Glad they're getting what's coming to them. After she left, I stood there with my shopping cart, surrounded by lettuce and tomatoes, and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't hurt, just tired, ready for the next thing. Thursday morning, Clyde knocked on my door at 7 a.m., had 2 cups of coffee, steam rising in the spring air. Thought you might want company, he said. We sat on my porch. Didn't talk much. Didn't need to. Just 2 old men drinking coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. Betty would have liked this ending, Clyde said finally. Justice, truth winning out. The good guys getting somewhere for once? The good guys didn't do it alone? No. He smiled. No, we didn't. He came by most mornings after that. Coffee and silence and friendship. Simple things, but they mattered. Saturday afternoon, Maddie was waiting when I got home from the hardware store. Grandpa, can we work on circuits today? Absolutely. The workshop felt different now. Lighter, maybe. Or maybe I just felt lighter. We worked on a three-way switch, same one we'd started back in January. Maddie's hands were more confident now. Knew which tool to grab before I asked. Knew how to strip the wire, how to connect the terminals. There. He twisted the last wire nut tight. Can I test it? Go ahead. He flipped the switch. The light came on. His whole face lit up with it. I did it. You did. We cleaned up the tools together, put everything back where it belonged. Dad's workshop rule. A place for everything. Everything in its place. Maddie sat on the stool, watching me hang the wire strippers on their hook. Grandpa? His voice was quiet. Why do people lie? I stopped, turned to look at him. 10 years old, Ruth's eyes looking back at me, waiting for an answer that mattered. I pulled up the other stool, sat down facing him. People lie because they're scared, buddy. Maddie's forehead scrunched up. Scared of what? Different things. Scared they're not enough. Scared of being alone. Scared of truth. What it might cost them. What it might show them about themselves. I looked around the workshop, tools hanging in their places. The smell of sawdust and old wood and machine oil. My father's presence still here in every corner. Your mom lied because she was scared of getting older, of being invisible, of 38 years, not meaning anything. That lawyer lied because he was scared nobody would respect him unless he had money and a fancy car. I put my hand on Maddie's shoulder. Fear makes people do terrible things. Are you scared, Grandpa? Sometimes, but you and me, we don't have to be scared anymore. We got this house, we got each other, we got honest work to do. Through the workshop window, I could see the tulips blooming by the porch. Dad's original bulbs still coming up every spring after all these years. Some things lasted, some things endured. Can you teach me more circuits next week? Every Saturday, long as you want to learn. He hugged me then, quick and fierce, then scrambled off the stool and headed for the house, probably to tell me about some friend's birthday party or a project at school. I sat alone in the workshop for a while, heard spring rain starting up soft on the metal roof, heard Maddie's laughter from the house, smelled fresh-cut grass from someone's lawn. The house stood solid behind me, my name on the deed, my father's work preserved, my grandson's future secured. Some things Kevin and Diane couldn't steal, this workshop, these tools, these moments of teaching and learning and growing. This love that ran deeper than blood, stronger than lies. Life wasn't about just surviving anymore. It was about truly living again, one honest circuit at a time.